Hello and welcome. My name is Peter. I'm the sole developer behind Growler Games. My current game, Blood Builder, is still in a pre-alpha state, but for the past few weeks I've been rushing to add content so I can get my Steam page up as soon as possible. In this video, we'll review the progress I've made over the last month, and we'll talk about why there's been such a rush to get the Steam page up early. So to get straight to it and to give context to the rest of this video, the reason that I'm rushing the Steam page is because I'm trying to get into a festival. After I had posted my last devlog, I learned of this Dark and Cozy festival, which doesn't take place until February of next year, which is about 6 months from now. But the application due date is September 15th, which is a little less than a month from when I'm recording this. And other than fitting the themes, the one other requirement is to have a public Steam page as part of the application and review process. And I don't have one, and I didn't plan on having one for Blood Builder until late October sometime, depending on Steam festivals and things like that. I might have to play around with the date. It's not going to release now anyway, so I'm not going to bother figuring out what the date would have been in October. I got to move it up because I want to be in this festival. And that's like a 6 month difference, 4 to 6 week difference. And that might not seem like a lot, but at this early stage of development, that's a lot of content difference in 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not balancing and polishing. I'm still adding mechanics and features to the game. So it's a huge difference, that month jump. And I needed to go back and reprioritize what I was working on and make sure that I'm just focused on the things that need to be shown off in screenshots in the trailer for when I put the Steam page together. And everything else just kind of to the side. And then I'll work on that in this 6 month period between applying and when the festival occurs. Which I feel confident that if I get into the festival, that 6 months, at the end of it, I'll have a public demo that I can premiere as part of it. But for now, I need to focus on just the essentials to get that Steam page out. The general advice that's out there is to get your Steam page up as soon as possible, at least if you're a small indie that doesn't have a big following, such as myself. Chris Zukowski, who's a Steam marketing expert and who I follow, he advises that if you've locked in your game name, its art style, and have enough content to show off at least 3 environments and 30 seconds of gameplay, then you're ready to make your Steam page. It's not perfect. What I have, it's not perfect. There's a couple things missing that I would have liked to have in there, but given the timeline, they're not in there, at least not at the moment. I might be able to slide one of them in before everything goes public, but I have submitted my page for review. It's been 1 business day. It usually takes 3 to 5 business days, but whether I get into this festival or not, it still is a helpful thing because I'm getting it out there faster than I otherwise would have been comfortable with, but it has enough to represent the game accurately and give that players have an idea of what it's going to be when it's done. Now I did stage a couple things, but I didn't fake anything. It is the real gameplay, that's in the trailer and everything like that. And so I'm happy with it. It's not perfect. I would have liked it to be a little bit different if I had that extra time, but I need to get this application in. And so September 15th is the due date, which means that really I want to get it in at least a few days to a week, just to make sure everything goes through properly. And then that means I need the Steam page up, which that's a 3 to 5 business day timeline for the first review. Sometimes it does take a little bit of extra time, and if it gets rejected, then you gotta address whatever the issue was and resubmit, so it could take some time. So that's why this late October to kind of early September difference is actually a little bit even more than that, but I have reached the point, submitted everything, and hopefully by the time this video goes up, I'll have heard back from Steam that everything's okay. But I want to get into the actual content that I've been working on so that I could get all of this put together. The first thing I started working on after my last video was re-implementing and expanding the planting and harvesting of crops. I started creating sprites for the seeds, the phases of growth of the plants themselves, and the crop that plant provided, like a ear of corn or a potato, whatever it was. I went and I made any of the sprites that I was missing, and I readjusted the ones and updated the ones that I had from the prototype. Now, from the prototype, most of the code was already done, and I think I changed very little of it, just updated a couple of things. So this is mostly just an art update to get this done. However, I did add an animation for the tilling of the soil, which the player does with a shovel instead of a hoe, which you usually see a hoe in other games, but I decided to do a shovel. I think there's a couple others that do it with a shovel too. In real life, it's possible to till soil with a shovel. I think a hoe is a better tool for it, but for the game, I did the shovel, and the reason for that is because I can reuse that animation of the player character shoveling for other actions that are likely going to be in the game, like digging other resources such as clay, or digging artifacts and treasure out of the ground, which you see in a lot of these type of life sim, farm sim type games. And so it was something that made sense for what the action was, but could be reused in other areas as well. So just kind of saving on time and being a bit smarter about how I approached it. But didn't take too much time. All of that's in, the animation's connected. Farming itself isn't done. I still need to add like watering of crops and like fertilization and stuff. But for getting the screenshots and the trailer to show that yes, you are farming to some degree. It's not. I don't like calling this a farm sim because it's part of the game, but it's not like the emphasis of the game. You till soil, you plant seeds, and they grow, and you harvest them. Right, that is an element of the game, and so that's all in there, and is playable and can be. I could show it off in the trailer and screenshots, and ultimately the Steam page. So after getting the farming, gardening type stuff done, the animation was the biggest part of that. I moved on to doing the first floor of the inn. And the inn has 3 floors to it that are planned right now. The first floor is where you're gonna cook food. It's got the kitchen, you're gonna cook and stuff like that. You're gonna brew, and then you're gonna serve guests. The first floor of the inn is probably the most important for getting the Steam page up, because I wanted to show that what are you doing with the food that you're growing, and you're cooking and then you're serving it to guests. And so I had a stove and a keg in the prototype that more or less functional. I brought them over. I updated the look of the stove in particular. It might get updated again. I definitely need to add some kind of animation to it, get some fire going or something while it's active and you're preparing something. But I added those back in, and I showed the player creating something, cooking something at the stove, and then the larder, which was in the prototype also. The larder is just a food storage container, but it's a special one because when you drop food and drink items into it, patrons come in, they seek a open seat, which was somewhat in the prototype, but I had to add to it because now there's multiple seats. There was only one seat in the prototype. Now there's multiple seats, so the patron comes in, seeks a seat, does a little walk animation, which is they didn't have before. They sit down, which is a separate animation, even though it's really just kind of like a single frame because I only did them facing away from the camera, just to speed up this process so I could get the screenshots and the trailer done. And then they'll order from the items available in the larder. And that needs to be added to, but the core functionality of it is there, and I was able to show it off in some screenshots and in the trailer. The other thing I added that probably took the most time was cleaning up the dirt piles. And it's just representative just a dirty spot on the floor. and they're going to exist in the castle and in the inn. In the castle, they'll likely just be one-time things, like when you're cleaning up the castle to restore it. Once you clean them up, they'll never reappear. In the inn, they will reappear from time to time, similar to like Traveler's Rest, if you've ever played that. But I chose to have a mopping animation for when the player's cleaning those up. And even though the player character doesn't explicitly have a mop, what they do have is a water bucket. And right now, there is a check to make sure that the player has a water bucket before they're able to clean up the dirt piles. What will happen in the game is that you'll need water in the bucket, and it will take a little bit of water every time you clean up a dirt pile, so you'll have to keep refilling it. That part's not in the game, the water. I just have the animation because, again, for screenshots and for the trailer, I wanted to be able to just convey and show the action of it so that players understand this is something that you do in the game. And so a lot more work to be had for this inn first floor, but there's enough there that players, when they see it, will understand that you're operating the inn. You're not just going in there to buy things, that you're the one who's cleaning and cooking and serving stuff. So after the inn and the cleaning animation, which again, the cleaning animation was probably the biggest thing, I turned to the Dark Forest. And the Dark Forest is an area that's kind of like the dungeon for the game. It's similar to the mines or sometimes an actual dungeon in other life sim, farm sim type games. And I only did the entryway to the Dark Forest though. I'm debating on whether to make the Dark Forest procedural or not. But there is going to be this first zone where you go in, and there might be an enemy or two the first time you go in, but it's going to be, there won't be enemies beyond that, if there are any at all. I'm still kind of fleshing that out a bit. But for the sake of the trailer and getting the Steam page up, I got this first entryway zone in so that you could see the environment, understand, the feel of it, and I did throw in a basic wolf enemy so that I could show off that there is a tiny bit of combat. Now it's a cozy game, so the combat is going to be pretty simplistic. I'm trying to figure out some ways to maybe expand it a bit to make the combat a little more engaging, but I want to be careful so that it doesn't become too challenging, because cozy games are supposed to be a bit more relaxed. Maybe I'll do a couple different difficulty settings or stuff like that. But for the sake of getting this the Steam page up, I focused on getting the first entry zone in there to show off the environment, adding the wolf with some basic animations. He can walk, he does a bite attack, and then he also does the flash, which isn't really an animation, but he flashes red when you do damage to him. And the player does, right now it's just like a little jab animation. I'm gonna change that. It works for now to show that the player is attacking, but I think I'm going to do something a little more exaggerated, like a big swipe that has the trail coming off of it. It'll look a little more interesting, a little more powerful than this little arm that just extends out, and then you see the wolf get pushed back. But it's in there. It all works. It's just kind of updating visuals really at this point for the basic stuff. The wolf doesn't have a lot of going on. He just comes at you when you get too close and tries to bite. The other piece I had to do though when I did this was updating and re-implementing the main HUD element. The main HUD element is going to contain like a clock type thing, which we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second, and also your blood pool and your health pool. The blood pool and the health pool are the part that I kind of was focused on while I was doing the Dark Forest, because I wanted to show taking damage and things like that. And so getting I made the HUD element itself. The clock portion wasn't functional, but it was it's more of an oval than a circle, at least for now. I might make it more circular. I got that there, and then I have the 2 bars coming off. It's gonna probably get a couple updates over the course of development, but for now, I actually kind of like it. It looks okay, and it's functional, and it's all hooked up. So when the player takes damage, the health pool goes down. If you drink blood or use certain actions, the blood pool goes up and down as well. And so all of that's there and functional. And it was representative enough that when I put it in the trailer and in the screenshots, you understand that there's this darker area where you're going to be fighting. And so I think it does the job. Continuing on with the HUD, after getting the initial HUD element in there and having the health and the blood pool going, I did start working on the clock so that it would be functioning in the trailer in particular. In the screenshots, you can kind of fake it by just changing it around, but in the trailer, I wanted to have the clock actually moving instead of just being a static image, because that would have looked a little weird. So on the bottom portion of the circular piece, there's the phases of the moon, and the phases of the moon are each night. So it goes in. There's 8, so it's not quite. It's a little more than a week. I'm not worried about holding to like 7 days. I wanted it to match the moon because the emphasis on night from being a vampire, and so full moon, and then I think it's waning and waxing. I forget which is which, and then it comes back to a full moon again, and then you go through the next 8 phases. There'll be a digital clock, an actual clock there, just for convenience for players to know exactly what time it is. Right now it's in what I know as military time. 6 o'clock, for instance, 6 p.m. Is the beginning of nighttime. So in military time, it would be 1800, 12 plus 6. Other parts of the world, I think there's another, it's not called military time everywhere. There's another name for it, but that's what I know it as. I'll have in the settings the ability to toggle between that and just AM, PM. So just for player convenience and accessibility. But for now, it just does the 1800, 2400s midnight, and then it ends at 600, which would be 6 a.m. The clock itself functions. Once you start playing the game, it starts, the time starts going. On the bottom, the moon phases actually doesn't function yet. I faked it a little bit in the video by having a couple of I used a couple different ones just to get the idea that the days or nights do change. At this phase of the game, there is no nighttime progression. Like, you just start and you can do things. I had to fake that a bit. It will be functioning, so I'm not lying. I'm just giving a representation of what the end game will be like. On the top is mostly for aesthetics and for mood, but it's just a time dial, and the specific moon phase you're in, that moon will appear and it will go across the little night sky from left to right to show the moon rising and the moon setting, again to indicate time. The moon rising and setting, it does work in the actual clock works. It's just the moon phases that doesn't work yet, and that's because there isn't a day system in the game yet. The next thing I did for the UI was I focused on the inventory. I wanted to have at least one fairly fleshed out menu item because it helps a lot with understanding the game just with that one inventory screen. So I blocked it out. I'm probably going to play around with the palette and stuff like that. Like, it's not exactly what it's going to be, but as far as the layout, it's pretty similar. But in that inventory screen, you can see you have an inventory, like inventory slots. You can see that there's currency, gold and influence, or it's money, it's not gold, money and influence. You can see that there's a leveling system with experience. You can see that you have those tool slots. The health and the blood pool are there again, just to re-emphasize that. There's a skills button, which In the game, there will be a leveling system where you get skills and abilities. I'm gonna change it later on, but I put a custom button, and I was hoping that players would understand that meant customize, that you could change the appearance of your character kind of at any time, because as you play, you'll unlock new wardrobes and things like that. So I'll probably change that to like a little mirror icon or something, and lay that out a bit nicer. But the overall layout and everything that's in there that's being expressed, like the inventory slots, like the leveling and the currency, like those are representative of what the end game's gonna have. And so that one menu shot conveys a lot of information, and that's why having like the UI element there is very important. So with all that done, which took some time, right? I'm talking about a month period here. I went back and I touched up some of the other areas that had already existed, because I'd added the first floor of the inn, I added the dark forest, but the exterior of the castle, the crossroads area, which is kind of this intersection point that ties a lot of the other zones together, and the exterior of the inn, which is where you do your farming and gardening type stuff. But I went back and I just made them look better, and especially for the crossroads, added a lot of more trees and rocks and some ores and things like that are harvestable, because that will be an easy way to get basic resources. For the exterior of the castle, I also added some like debris, like broken barrels and crates, and just some stone lying around, for initial resources for the player to be able to easily get when they drop in, and to add to the fact that you're restoring this castle that's been neglected for a bit of time. The one thing that isn't in the game yet that I wanted to do was the feeding on an NPC. Now, technically, at least code-wise, it exists. You walk up to a sleeping NPC, and it transfers the points over to your blood pool, and the blood pool goes up. I had that working in the prototype. But as far as the visuals, like the animation and the effects, I don't know. I have ideas. Like I know the direction I'm going, but I haven't settled on exactly what I want yet. And given the time constraints, I didn't want to just throw something in, because this is such a core piece of the game. So instead, what I did is I went and I created the second floor of the inn, which is where the human patrons go and sleep. And there will be the player will decorate to some extent, at least in the game. But I just staged it, added some decorations and stuff, and made it look nice, like what it would look like later on after the player's done some work up there, and have the player character come down and walk over to a sleeping NPC, and then I cut there in the trailer. And I was hoping that maybe it'll create a little bit of curiosity, like, oh, what does happen next? What does it look like? I had a couple people check it out, and there's some mixed responses for how it currently is. But the truth is that visual representation doesn't exist yet, and that's why I cut it there, because I don't want to just throw something in, because it is so important. I'm hoping it will most people will walk away with the curiosity factor of it. I think it does that, but we'll see how it gets interpreted. That's the one thing that I didn't get in that I want to get in. If I can get it in there, I certainly will, but again, it's one of the more important pieces for me, so I don't want to just throw something in. I want it to be very close to what the end result is going to be. That's the one thing I wish I had time to put in, but I probably won't ahead of the Steam page going live. As I was working on adding the content, I had also commissioned the logo and capsules for the game, and I used the same guy I used previously for my last game, Risk and Riches. His username is Angel F on Fiverr. Fiverr can be hit or miss, but I'm very happy with his work. I liked what he did for Risk and Riches. I like what he did for Blood Builder even more, which makes sense because it's been over a year, so he's only gotten more experienced in that time. If you don't have your own artist or don't know anybody to reach out to and you need something, I would definitely recommend him. I sent him some mock-ups and references at the beginning, and a little synopsis of the game to give him an idea of what I had in mind and what I was going for. Like he did before with Risk and Riches, he took that, he fleshed it out and kind of expanded on it a bit in a good way, holding true to the original vision, but adding some extra meat to it, and I'm very happy with it. It probably was a couple days of work for me, or a day getting that packet together to send to him, and then just some feedback along the way as he was developing those. For the rest of it, for the tags and the short description and the long description, as well as the screenshots and the trailer, I made those myself. I've mentioned him plenty of times before, but I adhere a lot to the advice from Chris Sikowski, and he has a free video how to make a Steam page. I'll link it in the description. I had seen that before. I watched it when I made my Steam page for Risk and Riches. I rewatched it this time just to get freshen up on that. I probably won't watch it for the third one because at this point I understand it all, because I've done it a couple of times, and I won't go into all of that. Right, if you want to know that process, watch his video. But essentially you find three games that are similar to yours. You look at the tags that they share in common, that are also that are accurate to your game as well. Don't pick a tag that has nothing to do with your game. But find 3 games that are similar to yours that have come out somewhat recently, and have had some success. Right? Don't pick something that totally bombed, because part of it could be that they put the wrong tags in, and so their game's not showing up where it should. But yeah, I used 4 for myself because I added in one that hasn't come out yet. I gave him a shout out before, but it was Vampire Rancher. But I used Stardew Valley, Graveyard Keeper, Traveler's Rest, and then I added in Vampire Rancher as well. Graveyard Keeper is probably, if I had to name a game that is the inspiration for Blood Builder, it'd be Graveyard Keeper. It's the only dark, cozy game that I knew of when I first was designing Blood Builder and coming up with a concept. The short description, the tags are probably the most important thing, followed by the capsule and then the short description. So make sure to put some time into that. Then your long description is the easiest to do, but it's probably the least important. For the screenshots, I showed off the different environments I had. Tried to get as much action type shots as I could, but I don't know that really came across. I could have potentially done better on that. And also I included that inventory shot as one of the screenshots because it gives so much information as to what's going on in the game. And for the trailer, I emphasized kind of the core game loop of harvesting, crafting, managing the inn, and like upgrading your character. And that's what I've been up to for this past month. Just really focusing on getting those features in to show off the core gameplay loop as much as I could in the trailer and in the screenshots, so that I can make the Steam page and hopefully get into this festival. But even if I don't, like I said in the beginning, having the Steam page up early is a good thing, regardless. Doing these videos generally once a month, there's a lot to cover, especially in a month like this where I was just cramming as much as I could. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you might have learned a few things. And I usually do 1 or 2 videos a month. documenting my progress on the current projects I'm working on, as well as the development of my studio. So please consider subscribing and liking, and I will see you in the next one.